Good day, InventionCon. We are so honored that you are joining us live as well as virtually to partake in this discussion on a focus on fashion, wearable tech. What are we really going to do today? Well, we're going to provide you with some history into fashion tech and how it rolls into the overarching industry of wearable technology, and also discuss the opportunities that are available to diversify the tech industry as well as for underrepresented talent to make their mark. I'm pleased to introduce my panelists who also serve as advisory board members of Wearable Tech Ventures. They are David Canada and Pankaj Kedia. Let me start with the bio for Pankaj Kedia. Pankaj Kedia is the founder, business lead, senior director of wearable segment at Qualcomm Technologies. He incubated the business over 6 years ago and continues to lead its growth, having shipped 250 plus products across 50 plus countries during this time. Pankaj also leads the Shareables audio business for the company in collaboration with global audio brands. Prior to Qualcomm, Pankaj held a series of strategy, product, business development, customer, and marketing roles at Intel over 15 years. Under his leadership, Intel launched a series of laptops, tablets, handhelds, and smartphones, bringing growth beyond the PC at the company. He's an active investor in the tech space, advisors to startups and nonprofit companies, and has served on multiple boards. He's an avid TED follower and has spoken at multiple industry events about the impact of the mobile, wireless, and wearable technologies around the world. Pankaj holds an MBA from Wharton, an MS from the University of Michigan, and a BS from Indian Institute of Technology. Next, I'll introduce our lead advisor, David Canada, who is the Director of Business Operations for Boeing Global Services. Named to this role in 2020, he has the primary responsibility for driving digital literacy and digitizing the business. Additionally, he has overall responsibility for the management system and effective operations of the Boeing Global Services business unit. He joined the Boeing Company in 2007 as an industrial engineer in the V-22 Osprey line. He implemented new project management tools that resulted in automated workforce planning and improved the schedule planning efficiency. David grew, taking on new challenges and roles across Boeing, and as an IT procurement manager, he managed 18 procurement agents, 30 suppliers, and more than $250 million in contracts. He moved on to serve as chief of staff to the vice president of the BDS IT Business Partners. He also continued his career as the senior management of mergers and acquisitions integration strategy, where he led mergers and acquisitions estimated at $2.5 billion and also manages critical cybersecurity issues and systems. David earned a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Howard University and a master's degree in business administration and a certification in project management. Please welcome David and Pankaj to our virtual panel for today. Okay, so David and Pankaj, are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's jump right into it.
I'm so excited because even though we started, you guys know this, and for those of you that have attended InventionCon in the past, you will know that as the founder of Wearable Tech Ventures, I started this platform self-funded in Baltimore, Maryland, with a focus on fashion tech. And since that time, we have grown and emerged into a formal nonprofit entity, which covers the entire ecosystem of wearable technology. And our purpose is to develop and promote wearable technology. And we have a strong goal to support 100 startups in this space that are led by underrepresented founders by 2030. So let's talk about the tech piece and then we'll kind of break down into the fashion side. So what I'd like to know from you, let's start with you, David. Understanding that tech is fastly emerging, right? And we've seen that especially during the pandemic, and wearables has been a strong contributor of that. What do you see as being the state of tech overall? Where are we going? And what are some of the opportunities there for underrepresented talent?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Lakeisha. I think to start, when you think about just the state of tech and wearable tech, it's growing. I think that this pandemic has showed us that people are being truly innovative and really thinking outside the box of ways to really adopt and implement wearables more broadly. One of the things I was thinking about when we were prepping for this is that how does wearables really impact individuals just on a day-to-day basis, and how has technology grown? And I just think back to the fact that when you think about children, right? When I first had a child, there was, and this was back in like 2014, there was no wearables available to really talk about like their vital symptoms, their vitals, and things like that. And now you have technology where like a baby is sleeping and he can wear a sock that'll tell you his heart rate and his temperature and all these other things that help parents really sleep well at night. So it's really looking at how technology and wearables has really been innovative and really growing, and really thinking back to the fact that we have to be on the front end of really shaping where the wearable space is going to go. And I'm really excited about the fact that
Love it. And Pankaj, since you lead the global business unit for wearables at Qualcomm Technology, what is your take on the state of tech and how wearables is going to contribute to further innovation?
Yeah, thank you, Lakisha. Thank you for inviting us. So first, let me define wearable and then talk about tech. At Qualcomm, when we think about wearables, we think about head to toe. I'll give you some examples. If you're driving and maybe you had a drink too many, you want your helmet to nudge you to slow down on your motorcycle. If you go for a run and you're wearing a headset, an earbud, you're listening to music, and maybe there is an accident, you want your earbud to tell you to maybe take a different route. If you are on a panel like this and you're running late, maybe you want your smartwatch to tell you you have only so many minutes. If you want to stay fit, get fit, stay fit, you want your trackers to tell you how active you've been. And many of us have gotten used to counting steps. We want your shoe to tell you how many steps your shoe has walked. So those are just a few examples of wearables from head to toe. Across all of these wearables, the technology has come very far. We have made leaps and bounds advancement over the last 5 years. At Qualcomm, we are focused on 4 technology vectors: size, power, sensors, and connectivity. Size, more integration, more miniaturization is good. You don't want your earbud to stick out. You don't want your smartwatch to look like a phone on your wrist. Sleeker the better, smaller the better. 2, power. Shirt. You want to wear it for many, many days before you have to charge. So lower power is good for longer battery. Number 3, sensors. My watch knows me how nervous I am, what's my heart rate, what's my body temperature. My earbud knows what my ECG is. So there's a lot of sensor integration. And last but not the least, connectivity, whether it is Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or cellular or NFC, every one of these are important. So on size, on power, on sensors, on connectivity, the industry has made significant progress. We are not done yet. We continue to innovate and bring better and better wearable products every year. And in many ways, we are only getting started. So good progress on the technology front. Back to you.
I love it, Pankaj, and I love the examples that you provided. And what we've seen during the pandemic has been a lot of creativity and innovation due to limitations people have faced on a daily basis. I can tell you that I designed a digital tee, and now they're trending because people are actually integrating digital tees, which are garments that you're not actually wearing, but that you can wear in a digital or virtual environment or in a photo. And they're adding NFTs to those. And so I was fortunate to showcase that particular design to a group of African American women and introduce them into another segment of technology. Also, what I know is that technology has saved a lot of people in their livelihoods. I recently came across a story of a gentleman who was a restaurateur, lost his businesses, and as a result started selling wearables. Basically, they were earphones for special needs children. And as a result, he's developed that particular business and licensed it. And now he's making at least $5 million a year just based off of that one product that he's licensed over and over again. So what we know is that this particular field allows people to adapt, to rebrand themselves, to reinvent themselves. And so, David, I want you to kind of talk about the opportunities that tech has brought to you, and what do you foresee for folks that may not consider themselves a techie? You know, what can they look forward to in this particular realm?
No, that's great, Lakeisha. But one thing I do want to just piggyback on is the fact that this technology is also saving lives, which is critically
Yes.
important. I mean, I know for a fact that we use wearables in when we have mechanics and individuals going in confined spaces, so that we can closely monitor things like heart rate, the temperature inside the airplane bladder, and but more importantly, where they are in the airplane, so that if for some reason we lose track of them, we know, oh, we need to go here. This person is here. They're not responding. And I think that the fact that we're using and have the ability to use wearables in a variety of different fields in very dangerous and hazardous situations to really just keep track of not just locations, but the vital piece of individuals, like the health and safety portion, is critically important. And that's one other thing that I really wanted to highlight, because I think a lot of folks really overlook just the power behind wearables and where it can really take us from a health and safety perspective. Now, to talk about just the innovation piece of it and just how people can just get more involved, I think that you have a generation of talent now that's more curious than ever, that are really deeply embedded in just learning technology and understanding things like coding and not just playing video games, but building their own video games. And I think that this pivots very closely to where we are in wearable tech and where we are in fashion, because this next crop of leaders and just inventors, they're the most creative people I've ever met. I have mentors and mentees that are like, hey, I'm designing my own tennis shoes. I'm designing this, I'm designing that. And I'm like, great. And they're like, well, how can I make it better? How can I differentiate myself from the competitors? And one of the things I'm talking to them about is, are you factoring in the wearable component? So, Pinkash, getting back to what you were talking about of, hey, if you're designing a shoe, why not have it to where it's counting your steps, or it's giving you other vital information that really is improving your overall quality of life. And I think the other thing that's critically important with this next generation of inventors is really looking at, they're really focused in on that end user experience. And if you think about where wearable was and where it is now, it's grown leaps and bounds because they really have taken that consumer feedback about, like, you know what, this seems really cool, but it's hard to use, so I'm not going to really use it, and really make it much more not just fashionable but functional. I think about too what smartwatches used to look like, and I'm like, you know what, I'll never wear a smartwatch. They're just ugly, even though, you know what, they may have some function to them, but now they've improved the functionality, but more importantly, they really look cool. Think about how many people have Apple Watches now compared to when the first Apple Watch came out. They were hideous. But so I think that from a technology perspective, it's really getting them excited about, hey, you have the ability to shape what the future of wearables looks like, and you have the brain power and the aptitude to do it. So take advantage of it.
I love what you said, especially about the adaptation of wearables to where we are today, right? So when we consider even devices used in a health setting, for anyone that may be a type 1 diabetic, if they have a pump, you're alive because of wearable technology. And due to continuous innovations, those particular devices are getting smaller and easier to use on a daily basis. If you have a family member that has heart disease and may be the recipient of a defibrillator or other type of device, that again is wearable technology. And again, what we are seeing and what you can continue to see in the media is a continued focus on wearables and the connection to the brain, and as well as research that's being done in Alzheimer's, et cetera. So with that being said, and kind of tying it back into fashion before I get to Pankaj, one of the key things or key components that wearables also helps to solve is that issue of sustainability, because we know that in fashion there's a lot of waste. And so with the emergence of digital garments, as I had already mentioned that I had developed, there are a number of youth that have their own platforms and they're developing digital garments in gaming. And so with that being said, here at Wearable Tech Ventures, I always say that we are redefining what wearable tech is because it is touching so many different spaces. And not only from an entertainment perspective, but again, as echoing what David said, saving lives. And we're seeing that even in the NFL with devices that are being created there, as well as colleges and universities incorporating wearable technology to maintain the safety of students as they return to campus. So, with that being said, what does it really take to innovate in this space? It could seem overwhelming considering the various industries that wearables impacts. What does it take to create something for a Boeing or a Qualcomm or even for a video game? So, Pankaj, can you provide some insight as to the history of what it took to actually develop and innovate a product and how that is transitioning now?
Yeah, Lakisha, good question. The first wearable products were smaller versions of smartphones. The first smartphones were smaller versions of the PC. Innovation always starts like that. But then what happened was we realized that it's not about we build it and they will come. It's really about what does the user want? What user experience are we trying to impact? What does that mean in terms of the product design? And how does product design drive technology? So I will take 2 or 3 examples. Fashion. I like to say we carry technology, but we wear fashion. We worked with many fashion companies. A good example would be the Fossil Group. when Fossil thinks about the smartwatch, it is fashion first. And fashion is defined as the right size, the right colors, the right choice for consumers. You know, maybe different sizes for male and female, maybe different colors, perhaps, maybe a different color based on the season. You know, Valentine's Day and back to school, very different. When Fossil thinks about fashion, the smartwatch needs to look beautiful, whether you are interacting with it or you are not. So we worked with Fossil to truly understand how they define fashion, how their customers expect fashion. That drove the definition of the Fossil smartwatch, and that drove how we design technology. I will give you a different example, maybe very different example. You know, in transportation, and a UPS worker or a FedEx worker, the number one thing that a UPS or FedEx person wants is a hands-free experience. They want to use their hands to carry the box from the truck to your front door. If they have to have a tablet and a box to bring to your front door, you know, they are juggling. They need the tablet so you can maybe sign for delivery, to describe what's in it, etc. But you cannot carry both items. So once you understand that problem or the opportunity, then you say, maybe the tablet is not the right device. Maybe the right device is a connected glove or a connected wrist device. So you can focus on doing your job, carrying the package and scanning delivery notification, taking a picture of the package can be done through the connected glove or through the connected wrist device. You know, at Boeing, I know there's a lot of assembly happening. There's a lot of, you know, manufacturing and like product line, a manufacturing line happening. Same thing. These are standing up workers. They're using their hands to do the assembly or to do the manufacturing task. And so having a wearable, the wearable can be an AR glass. The wearable can be a helmet. The wearable can be something on the wrist. The wearable can be something attached to your belt. Lakisha, in your case, the wearable can be, you know, something around your neck. Mm-hmm. So there is technology innovation, form factor innovation, but it starts with what's the problem we are trying to solve and what's the use case we are trying to deliver.
And I love that you said that, Pankaj, because in the past, wearable technology did not take off like I think it should have, because there were many people developing things just to develop them. And now I believe we're in a space in this industry where we're developing with a purpose. And there's a lot of opportunity in this particular space to not only design the actual tech, but even design the accessories that go with it. I've seen many manufacturers and even folks that are reselling items as accessories for your watches and for your rings and other items. And I can tell you this, when I was a little girl, I used to babysit my great grandmother. And my great grandmother could not stay at home by herself because she had Alzheimer's, but she also had that life alert necklace around her neck. Well, what I know is that social media is actually promoting and using influencers to promote the new design for the millennial market. And they're making it fashionable and they're making it cool. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's what my great grandmother had. So we're also seeing a repurposing of some of those innovations and making it fashionable, making it cool, and making it so that you can use it not only for those particular things where it's on your body, but even using it on your keys to, find your keys, to locate it, but also make it cute as you're doing it, right? So I often tell people that although I'm not a trained engineer, I studied and I work with the best engineers there are. And some might feel like, I don't know if I could do this. And I don't know if tech is my thing. I consider myself a new age techie. So, David, considering this particular space and all of the opportunity that is there, what would you say to those that are watching, to those that may not consider themselves a techie or an innovator? What would you say to encourage them to consider doing some things here?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. First and foremost, just be curious. It's one of those things where there's no silly question. Um, People in this space in technology have a wealth of knowledge and they want to help and they want to share. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I think the other thing that's really important is tying yourself back to a mission or a vision or like some kind of purpose. I tell my mentees all the time, like your passion defines your purpose. So if you're going to get in technology, it's like, why are you passionate about it, and what's the purpose? Like, what's the problem you're trying to solve? And I think that when you really define and align those things appropriately, you can really get through all of the hard days and be able to overcome challenges in the space. Because I will tell you right now, just getting into and growing within the technology space isn't easy. There's a ton to learn, and you're going to have hard days, you're going to have challenges, but just being willing to persevere and overcome, and don't be afraid to ask for help. The other thing I tell people all the time is that you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to say, you know what, I don't know, or I want to get help. I'm willing to ask for help because then you can go to people like Pankaj and they have a wealth of knowledge that they're willing to share with you. But if you're not vulnerable and you're not willing to just open yourself up to just learning new things, it's a challenge. And I think the last thing I would say for individuals that are just trying to be in this space is be excited because you really have the opportunity and the ability to just shape not just the future of just wearables, but the future of products and services that we build for the next millennium. And it's like when you think about it like that, and you're like, "Hey, I can be on the forefront or the cutting edge of what a new wearable or new technology or a new process to do these things." Like that should excite you. And it's one of those things where I tell people, it's like if you're really excited about this stuff, it makes the hard stuff that much easier. So, I mean, that's what I would just tell folks who are interested in the space.
I
You,
love
you
it. And
know,
go ahead, Pankaj.
yeah. One thing I would add, David, is, um, wearable is unlike any other tech product. Um, a good wearable is uniquely designed for you. No two people are alike. Even twins have differences. And just like every day, I wear a different shirt, and Lakisha wears a different shoe, and you wear a different coat. Wearable users want wearables that are uniquely customized, uniquely personalized for them. There is no one size fits all. And so the opportunity for the audience and everybody out there is to be active in articulating what wearable do you want? What does the wearable, what should it do for you? What are unique things you care about? And I bet somebody around the world is working on a wearable that will meet your unique needs. Somebody around the world is working on a wearable that you can take and personalize and customize. It's customer of one, and that's very important.
There's so much opportunity in this space, and there's so much depth and breadth. Recently, I was consulting with a dentist and explaining how something that they were working on could be considered a wearable. And I know that I've worked with some dermatologists that work with some of the largest beauty companies in the world. And there's a lot of technology that's being adapted, if you will, into our particular space, not only from the perspective of beauty and makeup, but also from the care of the skin and skin cancer. And we have researchers that work with us that have done some things with adaptable tattoos in the wearable technology space. So for those of you that are here today, ultimately what we're trying to say is don't count yourself out. There is so much opportunity. And if you are able to define a problem and can creatively come up with a solution. You may not be able to put it together yourself, but if you have an idea, then we have some resources and folks that you can consult with that can help bring that to fruition. And that kind of brings me to my next question, because when we talk about wearable technology, and of course, me serving as the model for that underrepresented community, being a Black female, not from tech, right? The odds are incredibly slim as far as success for funding, as well as success for licensing or doing business with larger companies. Both you, David and Pankaj, what advice do you have for budding innovators that may have an idea, that may have something that they want to take to market, or perhaps those innovators that say, you know what, I don't even want to develop it, I just want to do business with a particular company and let them do it? What's your suggestions for that particular audience?
David, go ahead.
Yeah, I think to start, don't be afraid to go in the room. Like, you belong in those rooms, you belong in those spaces, and you just never know who you might meet or who you might be able to influence in those spaces. I can't tell you how many times I've been in situations where you get over that initial hump or that initial like, do I really belong here? And then when you're in that space, you're like, not only do I belong here, like I can own this space, like, but you have to get over your own self-fear and self-doubt and just have a certain amount of confidence and stop telling yourself no. Like, worst case scenario, let somebody else tell you no. And then let somebody else tell you no. And don't take that no personally. Don't take it as you're not capable, you're not able, but use that as figuring out the understanding of the why behind the no, and then go back and make a modification. And then I also think that it's really important that when you're trying to get into the space and you're trying to forge those relationships, be intentional. The worst thing that you can do is try to develop a relationship with someone and, one, not really know what you want out of it, and two, have it all only be about you. It has to be, any successful personal or business relationship has to be mutually beneficial. So it's understanding what problem that other individual is trying to solve and how you guys can either co-create or collaborate to build something special. And then last but certainly not least, just be your authentic self. Because in the tough times, your authentic self is going to come out. And people want to know who they're going to be dealing with and who they're going to be in the trenches with, good or bad. I think that's also critical, important. So Pankaj, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Lakisha, you said you are not in tech.
I didn't grow up in tech, so to speak.
Yeah, okay. I think that's the old definition of tech. Yesterday, there was the tech industry, the manufacturing industry, the construction industry, the fashion industry, and so on and so forth. Today, and increasingly tomorrow, every industry is getting impacted by tech. Every industry is embracing and improving because of wearables. I'll give you a few examples. If you are a fashion model, your apparel cannot not have tech. Maybe wearable changes the colors of your dress and matches it with your shoe. That's a wearable. If you are into construction and you are at construction sites, maybe your helmet is smart enough to tell you your the shift time is closing, or maybe the sensor in the helmet tells your managers where you are at any point in time for workforce management. If you are a runner, you want to know what the route is. You want to avoid traffic. If you are a salesperson, you want the right wearable, maybe the right smartwatch to help you manage your day. If you are a doctor, you want to go to your patient. Yesterday, the patient came to you. You were in a big hospital. Increasingly now, you are going to the patient because they have a wearable and you're reaching out to them remotely and you have access to their vital information. If you are a police officer, you likely have a wearable on you where it could be a camera, like a GoPro camera. It could be some kind of wearable that protects you when you are dealing with different people. So technology is impacting every segment. Wearables are becoming part of every industry. And so no matter what you're doing, technology can make you more efficient, can make you happier, can make you safer, could even save your life, as David mentioned earlier. The benefits are countless.
I love it. So there is a purpose in this particular market, not only for your daily well-being, but also from a perspective of if you need to pivot, this might be an industry you want to take a look at because there are multiple success stories of people that have been able to do that successfully. But then even from a large company perspective, what I know, or should I say guess? I'll say I know, is that in the future, most of these companies will only be profitable if they have a wearable on their balance sheet. And I have proof to support that. And so I'm really excited about this particular industry. I'm excited about the opportunities that are available. I'm also excited about USPTO, who has been an amazing partner with us. So we've had a focus on developing a pipeline of innovators. And over the past couple of years, we've produced virtual camps, and USPTO has been a partner and came in to teach a particular segment of innovation as well as creating awareness with our youth about patents and how they can apply for a patent. And that's one thing that we are also encouraging folks within this ecosystem is if you have an idea, go ahead, work with USPTO and get that developed. And I'm pleased with the programs that are available through USPTO for underrepresented talent to assist them with guidance at law schools and with lawyers and to help to get those particular things funded. One other thing I'd like to add from the perspective of wearable tech ventures in our ecosystem, this past summer, or this summer, I should say, we've been producing a virtual webinar series where we've broken down what is wearable tech. We've even had partners that joined Pankaj and David, our partners from Under Armour that came in and discussed the future of wearable technology within that particular business segment. And then next week, we're even going to cover the impact of wearables and money, because I've already mentioned some things about NFTs, but also blockchain, and then also just looking at how can some innovators get funded in this particular space. We're definitely going to make sure that we cover some of those things next week, just as a little plug there. But before we move on to questions and answers, in this particular space, I know that wearable technology can be the answer to the long-term diversity issue within the tech industry. I believe that with our focus on developing a pipeline of innovators, by bringing many folks from many different backgrounds to work together, wearable technology, I think, is going to be that spotlight that's going to help to say, we work better when we all work together and when everyone has an opportunity to sit at the table. Before we take questions, David and Pankaj, do you have any last words or advice for our audience?
David, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would leave the audience with is that not only is this an exciting space and an exciting time to be in wearables, I think that it's understanding the global impact that wearables has and how it can impact each and every one of us on this call and on the webinar. And choosing to be a part of that is just an amazing and special journey that you won't forget. So just challenge yourself to really just dive in and enjoy the process. So, Pankaj, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. If I look at the last 100 years, if New York Times were published once every 100 years, what would the story be on the front page? We did a survey, and the right answer was life expectancy has gone from about 35 years to about 70 years over the last 100 years. Everything else pales in comparison. If people are living twice as long, that's the engine for happiness, for growth. That's also a source of problems like climate change and so on. But maybe that's the single biggest change over the last 100 years. We believe over the next 100 years, over the next 10 years, how technology impacts every one of us will be the story of the next decade and next century. Today we have 7 billion people. 4 billion have a smartphone. 2 billion have a PC. I believe that every 7 billion people, every man, every woman, every child, every pet will have at least one wearable. Many of us will have more wearables. That will change how we work how we live, how we play, how we share with each other. So from a consumer perspective, it's a very exciting time. From a inventor perspective, it's a very exciting time. If you are an investor, it's a very exciting time. And what Lakeisha and Dave and myself, we are coming together to impact those categories, the consumers, the investors, the innovators. So if you belong in any one of those categories, and if you are a consumer, reach out to us. There is ample opportunity.
I love it. I consider myself the luckiest woman in the world. Not only did I take a leap of faith, but I get to work with David and Pankaj and our Global Wearables Roundtable, which is comprised of members from large companies and research institutions to help shape this ecosystem and to design the future. And then I even get to work with youth and introduce them to components of wearable technology and how it integrates with not only medicine, but entertainment and gaming. And if you can't see my excitement here in this virtual environment, you just wait till you see me in person for one of our one of our events, or when we come back and work with USPTO. We are the biggest cheerleaders on the planet for wearable technology, and we are passionate about what we do. So I want to thank USPTO, all of our wonderful partners here for allowing us to share with you today. And I know we have quite a few questions in the chat, which I'll make sure that we address right now. So if you have additional questions, go ahead and place them here and we'll be happy to answer them. So as I'm pulling this up, I know one of the questions, let me see, I'm having a little bit difficulty there pulling it up, but one of the questions I know I saw was, do we actively mentor and work with talent? And the answer is yes. So we do that on a formal and an informal basis. So formally, one of the things that we put in place this summer from a group perspective has been the wearables workshops. And so there are recordings of those particular workshops that began in May and that go through August. And in September, we'll do a replay of that on a particular weekend so that you can get to know us better. And then also sign up to partner with us or let us know if you have an innovation that you want to bring to light. I also serve as a coach and a mentor for a number of entrepreneurship centers at universities in Maryland as well as in New York. And so you can always reach us at wearabletechventures.org. We do have a form there. And on that form, we ask, are you an inventor, an innovator, just a novice, someone that wants to partner with us? Give us those details so that we know how to best help you. And that's important that we collect that data so that as we are engaging with you, we know how to best serve you in the near future, because we're here to serve, because we want to make sure that this ecosystem and industry grows. And let me see. All right. So we have another question. So how are you addressing ESG goals in the design and development of tech fashion to include manufacturing?
Yeah, I think in general, like I mentioned, technology and mobile and wearables are impacting fashion and manufacturing, and ESG is not left behind. I don't know the specificity of your question, but we absolutely take ESG into consideration. Feel free to reach out to me via Lakeisha or via LinkedIn, and we can have a more specific discussion.
Absolutely. So yes, definitely reach out. And then you can also make sure you fill out that form on wearabletechventures.org with your question so that we can pass that on to our advisors. I will let you know that from the manufacturing side, there is an emphasis on manufacturing and introducing wearables in the state of Maryland. And so there are a number of partners that are working together, from fashion warehouses, but also some of those that are really key on the heavy machinery and the manufacturing piece to address this, and to really just come together and say, how can we best serve this industry? So overall, what I would say is that there is an awareness. There's some discussions about development. Are we to the final line yet? No. But I think with your questions and, by engaging us, we can definitely serve as that advocate to make sure that the needs are met. And, maybe even making sure that we can keep some development here in the US. Another question is, what companies and industries are open to and welcome to open innovation, especially for licensing agreements?
And
So,
I can go ahead.
yeah, no, we are open at Qualcomm. We are working with large companies and small companies, startups. So yeah, please feel free to reach out, and happy to discuss opportunities to collaborate.
Yeah, and just one other thing, just to add to that, Pankaj, is that it's really important when you approach a company that you understand the problem that company is having and how your particular product helps solve that problem. I can't tell you how many times I've had companies come up to us and say, "Hey, you want to partner with us? You want to work with us?" And it's like, cool, but what's the problem we're solving? And they tell us, like, well, we don't have that problem at all. So it's understanding, doing your research and your due diligence on the company, where they have the challenges and how your product helps fill that gap.
I love it. And if I could just echo from one of our recent workshops, Lauren from Under Armour and their team, they actually are accepting some open innovations, and they developed a website. So if you sign up, you could visit that workshop and you can get those instructions as to, how they are working to assist in that arena as well.
So, Lakeisha, I would like to say that was truly an insightful session about innovations currently happening in the world of fashion. So, I would like to thank you, Lakeisha, David, and Pankaj, for coming here, speaking to us today, and educating us about the world of fashion and wearable innovations. So, thank you very much.